If you're looking at your exercise routine as some necessary evil to keep your body in somewhat of a human shape, then watch this video. I might have some advice for you. Yo, what's up? This is the G from Force Training Academy, checking in from Corriban, our headquarters, right behind me before the evening rush. There are two major ways to fuck up a training program and make it from something useful and functional and enjoyable to sometimes downright dangerous. And one of them is something I call the burpism, and the other one is something I call the borism. Burpism is when you take a complex, difficult exercise, you fasten it up, and you put it into a high volume or high intensity environment. Borism is when you take an extremely simple exercise and you put it into a low intensity, low volume environment. Burpism would be something like a burpee, an intense, uneducated, small village CrossFit class, something of that nature. When you take an exercise, or you take multiple exercises combined into one big evil monster, right? If you take a look at the burpee, that's what it is. You've got a squat, you've got a push-up, you've got a jump. You combine these and you put them into a high volume environment, and then you program a lot of them. The problem with this one is, unless you have elite athletes in the pack who would actually look forward to this kind of torture, you will just really knacker your clients. So still we have some pretty tough guys here, but still 99% of our people would just break down after like 30-40 seconds of pushing into burpees because it's just too complex. You cannot keep that form. I would rather get them slow down, load it intense, and keep a perfect form for a lower amount of reps, or ease up the movement, take most of the components out of it, focus on the squat, focus on the jump, focus on the push-up, and put that into a light intensity, high volume environment. So it's still challenging, but it's not breaking people. See, the problem with this one is that as soon as you start fatiguing, you will start breaking down the form. And as you break down the form, you will experience mild discomfort, fear, and essentially pain. It's a very uncomfortable situation, and it's a very dangerous situation as well. You don't want to do that for long. So that's the problem with burpism. The problem with borism is that it's just fucking boring, and it's not giving any results. I've seen these guys, and I'm sure you've seen these guys in the gym as well, who's doing the same set of exercises for the last 2 years, 4 times a week, and they look the same, and they probably feel the same. That's borism. So the golden route, what you want to go for, is somewhere in the middle. You would start with single, simple exercises, master the form, load them to a point where you feel the intensity, but you're not crashing down, get stronger, and then you would you need to alternate the volume with the intensity. So when the intensity is low, the volume is higher, and as you bring up the intensity, you drop the volume down. In Force Training Academy, how my programs look: we start from high volume, low intensity, then I bring the volume down, bring the intensity up, not necessarily by adding weights, but by adding complexity or biomechanical disadvantage to the exercises. So we will progress in a push-up from an inclined push-up to an assisted single arm push-up in the course of 3 weeks, and we would drop the volume as much as from 20 to 5, right? So the volume goes down, the intensity comes up during the course of 3 weeks, And for the fourth week, we go back to the basic exercise, the fundamental exercise, which in our case would be the incline push-up, and we perform half of the starting volume. So that would be 10. Many people would say that the fourth week is just a waste of time. In my experience, it's not. In fact, deloading week is generally feared by clients because you can focus on the form a lot more, and you can focus on execution a lot more. So if you go through, let's say you start with incline push-ups, you start with 3 sets of 20, and then next week you're gonna do, but that's just one exercise. There's a host of other exercises grouped around the week what's supposed to be supporting every single major lift you're doing in the program, so that incline push-up would progress a lot faster than if you would just actually go and do it on its own. So you would start with incline push-up 3 times 20. Next week you would drop down in the volume to 3 times 10, but you would go to the floor push-up. And then third week you would drop down to 3 times 5, and you would go to assisted single arm push-ups or single arm negatives or uneven push-ups, one of those nature, right? Or rotation push-ups, that's amazing as well. That's just the main lift. And then for the fourth week you would go back to the rack to get the inclines. You would go for 3 sets of 10, which is half of the volume, with absolutely perfect form, with beautiful depth, touching the chest, locking out the elbows on the top as it's supposed to be, right? So that's one of them. If you follow this progression path, or if you, for that matter, if you follow any progression path, you will be able to avoid both of those mistakes. So just take a look at your training program and see if you're doing the same thing for a period of time. You might want to change it. That's the point of this entire example of our training programs, so that we don't do the same thing for more than 3 times, actually. Yeah, because one pressing day is 1 week, and you've got 3 weeks changing intensity and volume. The fourth week is an easy one, and then we change exercises to a variation, not completely, to a variation, but it's still a new input, it's still something new to learn, something new to experience. So you wouldn't be doing the same exercises in the same environment for more than 3 weeks, right? So you will never get bored. You're constantly challenging your nervous system, you're constantly challenging yourself, you're constantly learning about you. So you avoid the borism. And obviously you need to avoid the burpism, which we do in a way that we make sure that every single set can be completed in less than 20 seconds, unless we specifically train athletes for mid-term or long-term endurance, in which case you gotta use volume. But then, you know, that's a sport-specific thing, and that's mostly one-to-one, and it's not something I would put into a class environment. And even in the one-to-one, that's not something I would use all the time. I would cycle that in and out. You know, 2 times a week we do the endurance training. Other 3 times a week we do something else. We do strength training, we do technical training, we train for power, different kind of stuff. But you definitely don't want to wrap the living soul out of your athletes, nor you want to wrap the living soul out of yourself. Hopefully you find this helpful. One more thing, our channel is feeding off the soul of our subscribers. So if you like what we do, you know what to do. You will need to subscribe. Also make sure you hit that little bell button as well, so you will get notified whenever we decide to feed again.